Which free agent wide receivers are left for the Chicago Bears to sign? What is going on, y'all? Faiz Borsal back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about some NFL free agency. So if you're a fan of the NFL or the Bears or all of the above, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, guys, because I do talk a lot on this channel about that. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms and make sure to hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. All right, people, look. The wide receivers in free agency are getting picked up quick, fast, and in a hurry. And oh, newsflash, free agency hasn't even started. So how is that possible? Well, what I'm talking about is the teams that those wide receivers have been on are bringing them back, most of them. So let's go through the list here. All right, folks. So let's go through the list of the guys that I told you that are free agents, and then the guys that I told you the Bears should be interested in, all right? We start at the very top, obviously, with Davante Adams. This was a pipe dream. It was never happening. I told you guys that. But just for the purposes of the video, I will just say he was technically a free agent, but the Packers are tagging him. Aaron Rodgers coming back totally makes sense. It was never going to happen. So Davante Adams, obviously, gone. Next up on the list, a guy I really liked, Chris Godwin. Okay, coming off that ACL tear, I get it, but Chris Godwin, very productive, and he is going to get slapped with that franchise tag by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, they don't really have a quarterback because Tom Brady retired, so again, not sure what the plan really is at quarterback, but they want to bring back Chris Godwin, so that is another guy that you can cross off the list, okay? Let's continue. Mike Williams, who was my number one target for the Bears. The number one target I had for the Chicago Bears, Mike Williams, he is re-signing with the Chargers. I believe it's a 3-year deal, about $60 million. Well-deserved, and I would love to stay in LA if I was Mike Williams too, so I can't really blame him for signing back with the team. And, of course, you get to play with Justin Herbert. And they just added Khalil Mack. So Mike Williams is gone. So you're down, obviously, Davante, Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, and now we get to the lower tier of the receivers. Let me just eliminate some of the guys that I don't even want who are still out there. Obviously, I said I don't want Juju Smith-Schuster. It's not the type of receiver that the Bears should have around Justin Fields. He's more of an underneath slot guy. Odell Beckham Jr., same thing in terms of I don't want him with the Bears. He's not obviously the same type of receiver as Juju, but coming off an ACL tear, we don't know when he's going to be ready, and I'm just not a fan of adding him to the Bears, a team that is not ready to win now, unlike the Rams, and I think the Rams bring him back. Another guy that I forgot to mention, Michael Gallup. He is probably going to re-sign with the Dallas Cowboys. They just traded Amari Cooper to the Browns, so they probably want to keep Gallup alongside CeeDee Lamb. Speaking of Amari Cooper, a guy that the Bears could have potentially looked at and traded for, he is headed to the Cleveland Browns, so the Browns have him. And I'm not too sad about that, folks, because Amari Cooper's got a pretty fat contract, and if you did trade for him, you probably wouldn't be able to do much besides, obviously, keeping Cooper on the roster. And the fact is we're letting Allen Robinson walk in free agency most likely. And so, to me, Cooper still isn't really the type of receiver I want with Fields. But he would have been okay. So, he's gone. So, literally, folks, think about that. Davante Adams, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr. I don't want. Juju Smith-Schuster I don't want. And so there's really 2 guys left that I still want for the Bears, pending the dollar tag price that they come with. Those 2 guys are Christian Kirk and DJ Chark. Christian Kirk would be my number one target. He's young. He can play the slot. He can go deep. He's had his best season last year. You saw the promise, and he is the type of receiver that you want with Justin Fields. He's that mold of receiver with the downfield vertical threat, if you will. Christian Kirk would be my number one target. Now, he's not a wide receiver one, but I believe alongside Darnell Mooney, they'd be a solid duo. The problem I see with Christian Kirk, though, is all about the price tag. I'm reading reports that Christian Kirk could demand around $15 million per season. That's right, folks, $15 million per season. That is a hefty price tag. If that is what it costs, then no thank you. I would rather draft a wide receiver, and this draft class is pretty stacked with them. They're not very good at quarterback, but receiver they are good at. So Christian Kirk is number one guy, pending, obviously, the price tag. Number 2, DJ Chark, same thing, but DJ Chark coming off an injury, not an ACL tear, but still an injury. And he's young, and he's kind of a do-it-all receiver. But I like DJ Chark. I do like him. And if he comes in a little bit cheap because of the injury, so be it. I would like to take him. He's a nice number, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type. So I wouldn't mind DJ Chark. Those are the only 2 guys that I wouldn't mind. Everyone else on the list I'll pass. I mean, we're talking about guys like Will Fuller, Emmanuel Sanders, A. Jones. Like, it gets pretty bad. It gets pretty barren after those 2 guys. So as far as the Bears, if I'm kind of reading between the tea leaves of what the plan is now that obviously Ryan Poles is cleaning house, if you cannot get a young receiver on a cheap, affordable deal, they're most likely going to draft a receiver. That's what they're going to do. So I would like Christian Kirk. I would like DJ Chark. But it depends on the price tag. Now, keep in mind here, you are taking away from spending money on defense because of what? You want to reallocate those resources over the offense. You can't properly evaluate Justin Fields if you do not give him weapons. So I don't want to completely cheap out here receiver either. I want some talent around Fields. It can't just be Darnell Mooney. So you want to give him some talent so you can properly evaluate Justin Fields and then obviously build up the offensive line as well. So I do expect the Bears to be active in free agency for receiver. So keep that in mind. And on that point, let me just say a wild card that maybe they can explore if free agency doesn't work out and let's say the draft is something where it's not enough, right? They need more talent. Why not trade for a DK Metcalf? Now, DK Metcalf, I'm not saying is on the trading block, but Seattle traded Russell Wilson. If you traded your franchise quarterback, everyone else is fair game. And DK Metcalf is a young receiver. We just got a couple of draft picks in the Khalil Mack trade. It's basically like if you draft a receiver. It's only his, third year in the league. He's still very, very young. Downfield threat, big body receiver. Can kind of do it all. I really like DK Metcalf. You can also talk about Tyler Lockett, but I'd rather have Metcalf just because of the age. So, again, if you want to get kind of creative here, trade for DK and give Justin Fields that talent. I want some talent around Fields because you can't evaluate him properly if you don't give him anything to work with, right? So, to me, that is important. I hope Ryan Poles does do that. And so to me, again, like I said, let me reiterate, in free agency, it's Kirk and Chark. If we're trading for somebody, go and trade for DK Metcalf. If not, the rest of the guys in free agency are not worth at a receiver. And then in the draft, it's not going to be enough talent. I don't think it will. So let's see what happens here, folks. But let me know what you guys think. Give me some ideas on what the Bears should do at receiver. Leave a comment down below. As always,